There we go. All right, welcome everyone to the mid lane mentoring session. First of all, I just want to say thanks for being here and signing up. When I first posted the seminar, I honestly thought there'd be like 30 people total, and there's like over 150, which is just absolutely insane. I just want to say feel free to ask any questions throughout the seminar. I do ask that you save for any like specific champion or build questions until I'll be staying around in the chat room about 10 or 15 minutes after the seminar. You can ask them there or ask me on the League client or the website as well. But yeah, try not to ask those during the seminar, like uh, just so we can get through everything. But any other questions will feel free to ask. Alright, so just a little bit about me. I started playing League at the beginning of Season 4. I placed in Bronze 3 and finished my first season in Plat 2. I was actually in Akali 1 trick that season before I started playing other champions. My peak League, I hit Masters a few times last season. I'm currently D3 right now. My favorite champions are Victor, Syndra, and Corki. And then I'm currently studying math at Texas Tech University, and I'm also the mid laner for the competitive team. All right, so why would you want to play mid lane basically? It has a big champion pool, you know, you compare it to like ADC, there's like 17 champions. It's kind of like top, you can pretty much play anything and say it's viable in mid. You're at the center of the map, so you can kind of make plays anywhere. You have a lot of freedom to do what you want. And it's also a carry style rule if you like that play style better. There's three different types of mids that I like to categorize. It's assassins, mages, and that's split into three more categories of control, burst, and utility. And some of them can be multiple types. And then lastly, poke champions. So assassins, some of the pros, they're very fun to play, and it rewards high mechanics. So whenever I'm playing a normal or just wanna like mess around, you know, I'll just play somebody like Katarina or LeBlanc or Zed that you can just like kind of go crazy on and try some stupid stuff with. You can roam really easily with assassins. Um, Essentially, the reason for that is if your other mid laner tries to roam with you, you know, you're strong at 1v1s. You can stop their roam. You can also you have a lot of damage early in mid game, so you can just basically kill anyone on the map, and then yeah, they're good at 1v1s. Some cons are it takes a lot more practice to learn because they are mechanically skilled, and so it takes longer to learn their abilities and how to play with them. It's a lot easier to make mistakes with, less, and they're less forgiving. So uh, yeah, if you make a mistake, there might not be going sorry, there might not be going any back. So like if you make one small mistake and the other mid punishes you, that might be it. They're hard to team fight with. Sometimes you're not able to get to their back line, but you don't want to hit the tanks because you're an assassin and you don't do much damage to tanks. And they are very weak if you fall behind. Some examples of assassins are Zed, Ahri, LeBlanc, Fizz, Talon, Katarina, and Diana, and I'm sure there's others as well that I'm missing out on. Second is mages. Some of their pros are they're a lot easier to farm with because you can use abilities to farm with them as well. They have a lot more team fighting control, and yeah, there's a wide variety of champions to choose from. Some of the cons are a lot of them don't have any escapes. They can easily be picked or caught out, and they're usually reliant on skill shots. Some examples include Cassiopeia, Xerath, Syndra, Victor, Orianna, and there's a lot of others. And then poke champions are they're a lot safer in team fights in lane. Good for sieging towers, especially if you're ahead. You can just start grouping mid and start poking them out so you can start hitting towers. And yeah, very good if ahead. They can easily snowball. Because if you get ahead, you know, your pokes are just gonna start doing half of their HP. Their cons are they struggle when behind. You know, you won't really do much damage at all. They're pretty mana reliant, so if you aren't careful, you can run out very fast. And they typically have a weaker late game, so that's why if you do get ahead, you want to snowball and end the game as fast as possible. Some examples of this are Varus, Corki, Jace, Xerath, and Ziggs. Um, Alright, now I've split the seminar into three categories, which are, it's a little bit different from what I wrote online. I've decided to go with laning, map awareness, which I'll include map pressure in, and then lastly it will be team fighting. So I choose laning first because it kind of leads into the other areas of mid lane. Um, and the first part about laning is farming. Farming is definitely the most important thing about laning. You know, if you if you don't farm, you're not going to be able to do much throughout the game. So in order to learn farming, you need to know how to last hit minions with your champion. So that means getting used to their attack speed, their range and damage with their basic attacks and abilities. You also need to learn how to last hit minions under tower, and I'll show a video example of this in the next slide. Basically, with the ranged minions, you want to auto them once before the tower attacks them, and then you'll be able to auto them again after to get the minion. Otherwise, if you don't, like the tower hits it, your auto attack won't do enough damage to take that minion unless you're playing an AD champion. Learn. Oh yeah, so yeah, like I said, there's a lot of champions can be considered in multiple different categories. I just put them in the poke champions because I just needed more place to put them. But yeah, Jace can also be a burst champion as well. I didn't put split pusher as a category, mainly because it can fit. It's kind of how the feel of the game goes. Split pushing you can do if you're really fed on an assassin, or yeah, Jace can be a good split pusher too. Yeah, basically AD champions. What time should you start placing wards? We'll get into that later on the map awareness part. Okay, so farming. Also learn how to use your abilities to last hit minions or clear waves. So, for example, like Victor. Victor's a really good example. I also love Victor. So instead of the auto and then tower shot auto, you can wait for the tower shot to hit, and then you can auto attack with and then Q it, and then hold your Q, wait for the tower to hit the next minion, and then use your Q proc on that. And then yeah, watch examples of your champion that you're going to play by pros or champion guides to see examples of how they use your abilities, and really try to practice those combos and farming methods. And yeah, you really need to know how to farm before you play ranked. My guideline is bare minimum of 65 CS at 10 minutes. 75 is considered okay, and 85 or more is like really good. And this might change based on the flow of the game. Another way to look at it is just compare it to your enemy mid laners. Like if there's a ton of team fighting and roaming going on early, you might want to. Then your CS might be lower than these numbers, but that's perfectly fine. It just depends on how the game's going. But yeah, if it's just a standard lane for the first 10 minutes, no roaming, no ganks or anything, then definitely follow this guideline. All right, here's my first example of. Let me look at these questions. Yeah, again, Ari can fit it. Ari is an assassin. She's also is one of the more forgiving assassins, I guess you could say, since she does have so many escapes. All right, so this is my first example of Victor. This clip is kind of old, but it's the same thing still applies. Why won't it play? Hang on. Cannot play media. Hold on, let me check another video. What? Alright, let me try restarting PowerPoint, see if that works. There we go, okay. So this is an example with farming with Victor under tower. I think I do miss like 2 creeps in this video, but you'll get the concepts. Alright, farming, so it's about to hit the tower. Okay, you see this first one? You can kind of eyeball it. I should just let the tower hit it once and then auto attack it. Yep, there. And then... Oh. Wait, why did it do that? Okay, here. Oh my gosh. Sorry, guys. Okay, here we go. See out of that one. This one, I'm gonna auto and Q right there. In the front minions, you want to let the tower hit twice. I actually miscalculated. Sometimes you need to auto them once, and you'll kind of get the feel for it, and then you can adjust next time. Like, see, I adjusted that time. Just use my laser for that, and then I auto it once before the tower hits, auto it again. I'm a little too late on that one, so I miss it. Then I do the Q combo there. And then here's an important thing. I hang on to my Q as long as possible, because I see this one getting low, and I want to be able to get this minion before the tower hits it. So I want to wait to last hit this minion so my minions can damage this one. So I get that one, and then I have enough time before the tower hits to pick up that last one. So that's just a little example of farming under tower. The next video, this is using an ability to just clear an entire wave. So yeah, Victor Laser, once you... Right now, actually, sometimes even when you hit level 5, once you get your first upgrade, your laser will take out all of the backline minions. For the frontline minions, you need to like Q or auto them a few times before the laser will clear them. So here's an example, clear all of those minions, then I can use my Q. Taric stuns me. Oh, I think, yeah. I was getting bored right here, so I just killed Taric. Alright, okay, the next part is trading. In order to be good at trading, you need to know like a lot of different champion combos. You need to learn how to trade with your combos as well as what the enemy wants to do to trade against you. So this just comes from experience, you know, playing the champions, playing against them, knowing what their combos are and what their cooldowns are. You want to balance trading and farming. It's generally not worth trading if you're going to lose farm. You know, farming is very important. I think it's like 15 CS is 1 kill. And I know that sounds like a lot, but it's really not. Like, that's farming is so important. Trade. The most ideal time to trade is when there's no minions to last hit for a little bit, or your opponent's abilities are on cooldown. So like, you see there's not really any minions getting low. You don't need to last hit any. You can look to use some abilities on the enemy mid laner. And you can also use some abilities to last hit minions and also hit your opponents, like a Victor Laser, an REQ, a Corki Q. It can also be a Lux E. Know when you can go in for a kill 1v1. You want to definitely poke them out first before you try to like go for a solo kill before level 6. You don't just want to go all in, because minion damage is extremely high early. If you get caught in the middle of a minion wave, it's gonna do pretty much as much damage as the enemy mid laner. So yeah, poke them out and then know how much damage you have where you can go for the solo kill. But also don't get baited. It's important that if they're low and they're staying under tower, you can just keep zoning them and grabbing a minion lead. You don't have to necessarily go for the kill, because you might be getting baited for their jungler, or you definitely don't want to dive tower either. Yeah, and then lastly, a constant movement. You want to constantly be clicking all over the place. You know, you don't want to do a predictable pattern. You also don't want to stand still. It makes it harder for the enemy mid laner to hit abilities, and it also makes you more aware as well as ready for ganks, and it will increase your reaction time. Okay, here's an example from a game I had earlier today of trading. I'm playing LeBlanc against Victor. So see, I'm just farming. I'm constantly moving, just back and forth, back and forth. It keeps your hands warm. It's a really good thing to learn. So right here, he misses his laser, so I know that's like his main damage source right now. So I know he has his laser down. I decide to go ahead and W in. Because he has that laser down, this is kind of... It ends up about an even trade, but one thing I don't account for is I just jumped into an entire minion wave. And he also timed his Q at a good time, because he basically blocked a lot of my W damage. So that's what you want to do if you're the Victor. He missed the laser, but he timed his Q at the right time. And he's just gonna auto attack me, because auto attacks combined with minions do a lot of damage, and he also proc Thunderlords. So I walk back, but then at the very end I also get a Q off on these minions, so my W will bounce to him as well and get Thunderlords. So I think he won that trade a little bit. But that's just a small example of I went in after his E was on cooldown, but he timed his Q at the right time because he knew if he blocks my W damage, then that's most of my trade potential right there. And also, if he's this low and I'm about to hit level 3, that's when you could look for an all-in on LeBlanc, especially with Ignite. Alright. Wave management. Okay, so the next important thing about laning is wave management. You want to know when to push your wave versus when it's freezing or pushing against you. So I came up with 3 different wave positions. One, it's pushing away from you, it's pushing towards you, or 3, it's frozen in the middle. Before backing, you want it to either be pushing towards you or away or frozen in the middle. If you want it to push away from you, you need to make sure it gets all the way to the enemy mid laner's tower, or else they could freeze it and all of your minions will take their minions and you'll end up losing like 1 or 2 waves. So yeah, you definitely want it pushing towards you or frozen in the middle if you're going to recall. Um, Likewise, you only want position 2. Oh yeah, so you can have it pushing away from you if it reaches all the way to the enemy mid laner's tower, and you also don't want it pushing towards you if it reaches your towers, because then you'll just lose that minion waves to the tower. So you want to try to freeze it or freeze it towards you, or have it in the middle, or you want to just push it all the way into their tower. Uh, and then you always want position number 1 when you're roaming or warding. Yeah, that's really important because if you don't, then they'll get a lot of tower damage, or they'll just push their minion wave into your tower and you'll lose a lot of minions. What is this? Um, I'll go ahead and hit on this right now. Ludens is a good item if you're ahead and they have a squishy team. It's really good for snowballing and killing squishies basically. It also gives you a little bit of extra wave clear. But if you're behind or if the enemy team has a lot of AP, like 2 or 3 AP threats, I'd prefer to go Abyssal second on Ahri. Um, yeah, it's just kind of a preference thing. I usually only get Ludens if I'm really ahead and I'm gonna snowball the game. Um, Alright, here's a video on wave management. So right here I'm just gonna push the wave all the way into his tower. And then what can I do? I can pretty much do anything now. You don't want to just stand here and do nothing, because then you're just wasting time on the map. So right now I can either... First thing you want to do is look for roams, maybe bot or top. If that's not an option, you can't really roam. Then look to ward, maybe go look to help out your jungle. Or you can just recall right now and buy some items. So yeah, in this example I just go ward. Those are pretty safe wards. Oh yeah, always get Morellonomicon first. 100%. Then I'll show... Oh, this is another example of using... Oh, why did it do that? Of using his E to clear an entire wave. If I did it right, where was I? Oh no, I didn't have my upgrade. Okay. So yeah, I just push it to his tower again, and now this time I just back. Okay. Alright, so overall laning is just extremely important. If you can't lane, you won't be able to team fight very well, you won't be able to impact the map very well. So you really need to lane. In order to do this, you need to know your champion's abilities as well as the opponent's abilities. If you go into a game without knowing them, try to Google it real quick, just read the abilities descriptions. Just really, you need to know all of the abilities. And these are some strong laning champions. This is actually kind of old. Victor and Corki still are relevant, so Victor's a strong laning champion because he's easy to farm with. He can use his Q and E to help trade and farm. His auto attack animation is pretty strong. Corki is very strong early to mid game. He can use his poke to farm, his Q to poke or farm for a distance. He has an escape, so it's fairly safe from ganks. Also, right now, if you buy Corrupting Potion and your Gatling Gun with Thunderlords, it's really strong in lane. You just activate your Gatling Gun and a Corrupting Potion, and you can instantly proc Thunderlords as well as get the burn. Lulu's not very good right now, so I would discard this. Instead of Lulu, I would add Syndra. Syndra is so strong right now. Um, yeah, okay. When would you consider the most ideal time to back? It really depends. Um, for certain champions, you want to back when you hit a certain item or a power spike. For Victor, it's when you get 1250 gold, you want to get your first upgrade. Otherwise, it's if you have no mana or you're super low and you can't stay, then you're kind of forced to back. Ideally, you want to back when you can buy the items you want. For a lot of mages right now, it's the I can't remember the name. It's the blue book that goes into Milanonomicon. That item is really strong. So like once you get like 1,000 gold, I'd say you can grab that, grab a few health pots, maybe a control ward. Um, Otherwise, it just depends on it changes from game to game basically. Um, you want to lost chapter. Thank you. Um, it just kind of depends on how the game's going. If you want to get mana, then you can just go ahead and back. But yeah, before you back, you definitely want to consider if you can lose any minions or anything like that. Um, the champion pool thing, I will. I'm gonna hit on that. That's towards the end of the seminar. I will talk about that a little bit. Okay, that moves us. I thought I had map. Okay. The next stage is team fighting. Hold on, let me make sure. Okay, yeah. Alright. Um, when do you start with the refillable potion? Okay, a refillable potion is a preference thing. I personally really like biscuits, so the only time I do it is when I'm playing Rise and I get I start with a mana crystal and a refillable potion. I personally hardly ever buy refillable potion, but a lot of pros and a lot of Koreans actually do. Uh, I'm not too sure on that one. Uh, I think it's more of a preference thing because I really like my biscuits, so I usually just go ahead and keep buying biscuits throughout the game. But it is strong if you're getting harassed a lot. You'll just spend 150 gold once and you can just keep. That's why it's good on Rise because Rise recalls a lot. He has a lot of mana problems early on, and you want to recall once to get your tier, then again to get your catalyst, and he recalls a lot early on. So that's why refillable potion is worth for him. Uh, oh yeah. All right, so team fighting. Positioning is the most important thing about team fighting, and it really depends on what kind of champion you're playing to know how you should position. For assassins, you usually want to be on the enemy backline or taking out the squishy champions. You don't do a lot of damage to tanks, um, and you want to look for flanks or positions where they won't see you coming. Kind of surprise them. Also look for cleaning up fights if you arrive late. So let's say your mid laner roamed mid before you or bot before you, and they either killed your bot or forced them off, but they're super low. You can just come down bot and clean them up really easily with assassins. Um, Poke champs, you want to stay as far back as possible and just poke. You only want to go forward if your team's already won the fight and they're walking away. When sieging towers, you want to stand in a position to poke an enemy off the tower and then hit the tower every time you get a chance. And you have to land skill shots to play poke champs. You really have to. And you want to use those skill shots to zone them off as well so you can hit the tower. For burst mages, you usually want to try to target the backline like assassins, but you don't want to flank because if you try to flank, they'll just turn on you and you'll just die instantly. You want to save your burst combos for squishy champions, generally, but you can also, in some games, you won't have a choice. You'll have to kill their front line. Like, their front line is just so huge, so you'll have to kite back. But even then, you still want to save your burst combos for squishies, like Victor ult or Syndra ult. You don't want to use those on tanks. Um, they're good for baiting enemies who are unprepared for your burst. So, like, let's say you have, like, you're Syndra and you have half HP and the enemy mid thinks they can fight you, you can just like retreat until you have your cooldowns and then just like turn around and just combo them. Yeah, and then lastly, if your sweeper lens is on cooldown, should you still go for... Yeah, I actually, most of the time I don't take sweepers on assassins anymore. I take yellow wards. Sweeper can, if their team is warding a lot, you can take sweeper. A lot of times when you flank two in team fights on assassins, it'll be after the fight's already started, and they might not see you even if they have a ward because they're paying attention on the fight going on. Or sometimes you just have to kind of guess, like you have to say like, I really hope they don't have a ward here, and then go for it. But yeah, sometimes like the timing is just perfect, and your sweeper is not. If your sweeper's not on cooldown, but the timing for the fight is just so perfect, you have to go in then now. Then yeah, you should still go in. Okay, utility mages usually stay in the backlines like poke champs. You either peel for your carries or look to engage. So like Orianna, you stay in the backline, you kind of kite, and then you just wait for the one chance where you can just hit a massive ultimate on their squishies or something like that. Other utility mages like Lissandra, yeah, you can peel for your carries like ulting one of their fed tanks to save your ADC or something like that, or you can just go back in and engage. It pretty much depends on the champion. Alright, so here's a few examples. These clips are again kind of old, but the same concepts apply. Right here I'm playing Kassadin. So, okay, so right off the bat you can see Vigor's already used his stun. Right here I'm not flanking, because Kassadin you can just keep jumping towards them. You don't really have to flank, especially since the fight has already started. Just gonna jump in, instantly kill Tristana, who's their main carry. Then you just kind of go with the flow of the team fight. I don't want to go on Irelia, she's pretty tanky. I don't want to kill Nunu either. I want to focus on Soraka and Vigor because they're both squishies and they're both the two main carries left. So I'm just gonna jump in, kill Soraka. Then next up I just jump on Vigor, kill him too. And then right here I got greedy. I wanted the Penta, so I had to kill Irelia before Morgana did, but I ended up not getting the Penta. So that was an example. Jump on the squishies, jump on the carries. Don't focus tanks until after those champions are down. Alright, another example of an assassin right here. I'm playing Zed. We're sieging mid. Then right here, okay, right here we killed Udyr and Thresh just used his hook. They have a Victor left. This is pretty much their only CC that could stop me from going in. So once I see that, I know I just jump on Victor, kill him. They don't really have anything to stop me. Next, this is another Zed example, another assassin one. Alright, right there again, Thresh uses hook. That's their main CC. Nautilus hits a hook on Thresh. A lot of people would make the mistake of just ulting Thresh right there, but he's a tank. Again, you don't want to use your assassin damage on tanks. So while they might kind of be distracted with Thresh hooking him, I just go ahead and jump on Kog'Maw. He flashes away, so I follow him. And then boom, we end up killing Kog'Maw and Thresh. If I had jumped on Thresh there, then Kog'Maw probably would have lived and we would have only gotten one kill. Okay, here's Victor can be a burst or a control mage. Here's an example. Like I said, save your burst for their backline. So they're doing Baron. I just walk up here. Nidalee and Corki, boom, both very squishy, and they're jungle and ADCs, so they're both carry champions. I just drop my ult, and basically just delete them, and that was a really easy team fight. Here's the one that might not be so obvious. So right here, this is what I was talking about, like unexpected damage. I don't think they see me right now. They go ahead and engage on these two, and they're all like, I have a ward, I see all of them, and they're all like funneling in. You can just drop a laser and ult right here onto 4 people, and it just like destroys all. That's pretty ridiculous. So yeah, Target priority and positioning, two main things. Some good team fighting champions out there right now are Orianna. Her ult can single-handedly turn a fight. She's got good zoning with her ball. You know, they're always scared of, when will she ult? They don't want to stand near the ball. And tons of AoE with her Q, W, her ult. She can also give shields to tanks if they go in and ult off of that. Cassiopeia, her W is a big AoE that it actually prevents flashes or escapes, and it's really good for layering on top of other CCs. So like, if one of your tanks engage, say a Malphite or something, and you just drop your W on top of that, they won't be able to get out. Her ult's an AoE. It can also, again, it can change fights just like that. And she has insanely high DPS, so she's good at melting tanks or destroying carries. So you can either kite back or go for carries, just depending on how the game is going. And lastly, Victor, huge AoE, ult, and laser, as you just saw in that last clip. He's got lots of late game damage, and his Q gives him really good mobility to run around. Also, for team fighting champs right now, a lot of the mages mid, you want to take Ghost just for moving around, kiting around team fights. Ghost is really important right now. What about Abyssal versus Morello on mana-dependent champions? Okay, for that, you can just go ahead. A lot of times what I'll do is if I'm playing against like a hard AP like LeBlanc or Cassiopeia or something like that, and they're beating me in lane, just spend 720 on the Negatron Cloak, but don't finish the Abyssal. You just buy the Negatron Cloak, then you finish Morello's, and then you can go and finish the Abyssal, just so you get some of that early MR, and it won't delay your Morello's start, because you really do need that mana. And if you back with like 1450 or something, you can just go ahead and buy the Lost Chapter, and then buy a Null Magic Mantle, the first part of the Negatron Cloak, I think. Yeah. Alright, and our last section is on map awareness. Hold on, let me drink some water. Alright, the first thing to talk about is getting ganked. It's going to happen pretty much every game. It's very rare that you just won't get ganked at all, unless either you're just destroying their mid laner, you can 1v2, or the opposite is happening and you're getting destroyed. Know when and where to ward to prevent ganks. Some good spots are like your side bushes early on. You can also ward over the wall, and you really just want to ward like every time it's on cooldown. And where to ward, this has to do with knowing kind of where their jungler might be or where they have pressure. Like if their bot lane has pressure, then their jungler might work bot side of the map, so you want to ward that side. If their top lane has pressure, same thing over there. It just depends on how the game is going and where you think the enemy jungler is to decide where to ward. If you die to a gank, there's always something you could have done to prevent it. Most of the time. Sometimes it's just unavoidable. Don't just blame your jungler for not like counter ganking. Sure, maybe he could have counter ganked and it would have went well. Like maybe he should have been mid, but don't just blame your jungler for that. You need to learn from getting ganked and what you could have done to prevent it. It's the Dade. I am unfamiliar with the Dade ward, but if it comes from Dade, I'm pretty sure it's still efficient. Oh yeah, if you get ganked, just always burn your flash. Don't try to be greedy and save it. Unless it's like obvious that the gank's gonna fail. But for instance, if you're greedy and you're like waiting for your flash, then they take all of your health and you're like, oh shoot, I need to flash. Then it's too late. You either die. One, you either die, or two, you lost all of your health and you can't lane anymore. Like you have to back. If you flash early, you'll avoid all of the damage, and then you can return to lane and keep farming. They won't be able to push you under your tower, things like that. In front of wraiths. Oh yeah, that's a really good spot. Yeah, that's just warding over the wall on your left side, or yeah, you just ward over the wall. That's more of an aggressive ward, because it'll spot the enemy leaving their top side jungle if you're on red side, or bot side jungle if you're on blue side, I think. Yeah, that's a really strong ward, and it's also you want to place that ward if you're pushing, especially. If you're getting pushed, then you kind of want to ward more defensively to prevent a tower dive. Okay. Oh, and if you just burned flash due to a gank, they're probably going to re-gank you, so you want to play safer if your flash is on cooldown. Always consider where their jungler might be. If you spot them at a different lane, then you can use that opportunity to be aggressive, but this is something I've been working on a lot lately, is like find out where their jungler started, like what his route might be. Just try to keep track of him. And then, yeah, warding is just so important. You know, control wards, using your yellow trinkets until you upgrade to a blue if you do. Just constantly ward. Alright, I've got a few examples here. Oh yeah, this is the same example from earlier, so I'm just gonna push the wave. And then yeah, these are wards for if you're pushing, like over the wall. Um, okay, that one, it should be more to the right. So you can see them leaving their jungle if they try to wrap around and gank you mid. And then I think I'm gonna go do the, I'm assuming this is the Dade ward you're talking about, right here. Yeah, that's a really good ward, especially if you're pushing. Is there anything else in that? No, that was it. Oh yeah, here's another example. Okay, so this is an example from a long time ago, but here's an example of map awareness as well as not saving your flash. So me and my teammate here, shout out to Leo, we decided we're gonna just push out mid, but we don't have any vision. If you look at the map, we have like no wards on the map whatsoever, and we lose track of both Alistar and their jungler. Oh wait, let me back that up. Yeah, Nidalee and Alistar are both coming in, so as soon as I see Alistar, I know I'm gonna have to flash his combo. If I don't, like, I'm gonna die to Fiora and Nidalee. So just boom, instant flash, he ease away, and so that's an example of poor map awareness first of all, due to lack of vision, but also not saving your flash. Because if I had saved my flash, I either would have gotten killed or I would have lost all my health before flashing. So yeah, we end up living there. Alright, roaming. Learn when and when it's not a good time to roam. This really just comes with an experience. It's really an experience thing. So the more you play, the more opportunities you see to roam, the more you try it out, the more you'll learn. There's always an opportunity cost. Consider what you'll lose if you roam or what you can gain. So if the enemy mid laner is like pushing their wave into your tower, you don't want to roam because you'll just lose a bunch of tower damage and minions, and your roam might not be successful in the first place. Oops. Always try to push your wave to the opponent's tower first, or roam if your opponent backs, so you won't lose anything. Like if they back, then they obviously can't push your wave. You won't lose any minions. If you push your wave to their opponents, it'll take them a while to push it back all the way to your tower. One thing you can do is you can also just go straight from base, either to bot or top. This is good if your wave is frozen mid. It can be unexpected. This is really good with Corki package right now. It's also good with champions like LeBlanc, who can just chase people down using dashes. It can work with Ahri as well. Pay attention to jungle invades and look for opportunities to help your jungler. This is especially if you're ahead. You can use your lead to kind of starve out their jungler and help yours get ahead. And if you get really behind, sometimes roaming might be your only option. Like let's say you're Fizz, who is usually behind a lot of CS. Just one good roam could like just get you back in the game. So yeah, just look for opportunities like that. Some reasons to roam bot lane are obviously there's two enemies to kill, and you also get two members of your team ahead. Dragon control is extremely important right now, so if you can get that, especially Infernal, then you'll be good to go. And then if you get bot ahead and you have like a strong siege ADC like Caitlyn or Tristana, Jinx, then they can just instantly roam mid and then help you push that tower as well and just snowball the game essentially. Top lane, it's pretty good if you have a carry top laner. You know, get them ahead, they start just dominating their lane, they take tower and they start split pushing. If the enemy top laner lacks escapes and you know that you're like, basically you're gonna get a kill if you go top lane, then it might be worth. And then if your top laner is a champ that can affect the rest of the map, like Shin or a Malphite. You know, they beat top, then they can TP bot, they can ult bot, and then snowball the game that way. Here's an example of a roam. Okay, so some context for this one. Their support, Tahm Kench, he is backed, and uh, the enemy Diana, who was their mid laner, had already roamed bot. One thing to notice, if you're the Diana, roaming bot is really risky if your support backs, because this is exactly what could happen. It could just turn into a 3v4 if the other mid comes, and especially when I had Corki package. So yeah, they fight bot, and I see they're pretty... Or no, the fight's just breaking out, it looks like. So I'm just going to come in late, and I just hit I hit a huge package right here. Just knock them all back into my team. That was a really easy roam. And if you also look at the minion wave is pushed into Diana's tower, so I lose absolutely nothing for this roam. So yeah, that was pretty easy. And that was an example of Corki packages is a really strong roaming tool right now. Oops. Alright, here's some strong champions for roaming at the moment. Oh. I don't know why it keeps restarting, sorry about that. Alright, Syndra is super strong right now. She brings CC with her QE if you can land it. Comboed with Ghost, you basically can't escape a Syndra. You know, she can. A good trick is you use a Q and you pick up the orb, and then you wait for them to flash basically, and then you can you drop the orb and then they can flash, and then you can QE again. So it's like really hard to escape her. And then you can just press R and delete anybody bot lane, especially early on. Like, nobody's going to be tanky enough to survive a Syndra burst. LeBlanc's really good to roam too, simply because she can reach lanes really fast with her W. She has a lot of burst damage, easy to catch champions after they flash away, and she has some good CC if her chains hit. And then Ahri as well. I know we've got some Ahri mains in here. Her ult's a great gap closer, so even if they see you coming bot, you can still pull off a successful roam with that. If you're basically you need to land your charm, especially if your bot lane doesn't have any CC either. If you land that, it's basically a guaranteed kill. And she's good at pushing waves before roaming as well, so you just queue a wave and then you can just go roam. These are some good champions for learning mid. This is pretty old, like a season or two old, I think. I think this build is still relevant on Lux though. The first one is Lux. She's a fairly simple champion with simple combos. Pretty easy to farm with her. She has a good auto attack animation, and her abilities really help her. And she can solo carry games with good combos. Like if you're just standing in a spot that's it's not warded, and they come and face check or they don't see you, you just land a QE ult and you can just delete people. Right now I'd say sub out these Lucidity. I mean, you could go Lucidity. You might want to go Sorkpin though. But I think the rest of this build is pretty good right now. Next one is Ahri. She's also easy to farm with. Her auto attack is solid. Her Q and her W both help her. She's got good roaming potential, and her skill cap is also a bit higher than Lux, so I think she's more fun to play. And you can definitely she's a bit more mechanical. This build is a little outdated. I didn't go over. Oops. Okay, these runes it's still the same right here. Oh. Oh, thanks. I didn't know. Yeah, this is still the essential rune page right now for mids. You just go flat AP coins, health per level seals. You usually go 10% CDR per level glyphs. You go some magic pin marks, and then the other three, after you've got the 10% CDR, you can either go magic resist or ability power per level, depending on the matchup. Ahri went over. This build right now, I'd say I like Sorkpins better on Ahri. Go Morello first. If you're really ahead, you can go Luden second, and then Deathcap or Void Staff. If you're really behind, you typically want to go Void Staff second, just because it's a cheaper item, and it can help you get it can help you get back into the game. If they're not stacking MR, you can do more true damage basically, and if they are stacking MR, it'll just help you get back in. Um, Rylai is probably not so good on Ahri right now since the nerf. Abyssal is good if they have AP champs. Deathcap is always good. And Corki is come back into the meta recently. You just want to go a typical ADC page with him. His skill shots are pretty simple to land. He's got strong laning. His package is really good for roaming. This build is outdated. Right now you want to go Triforce and Hextech Gunblade as your first two items with Sork Pin shoes. You can also go, if you're against like a LeBlanc or a Syndra, you can rush a Hex Drinker and then finish Triforce and then Hextech. You don't want to go Bloodthirster anymore though, I don't think. After those you can go IE Rapid Fire. If they're super tanky and you don't have other AP champs, you might want to build a Leandries. Alright, and here's some additional tips. When you're first starting out, if you really want to just like get really good at mid lane, I recommend just picking 1 to 3 champions to just really get good at, like, learn all of their abilities, know how much damage you do at certain points in the game, know their combos. Basically, you want to know them so well that you don't have to worry about champion mechanics, and you can start focusing on other things about mid lane, like roaming, warding. You know, you don't even have to think about the champion mechanics. Don't get too discouraged. If you're starting out, you're gonna die. You're gonna get solo killed a lot sometimes by like Smurfs or people who are just better right now. You're gonna get ganked a lot. You can get ganked from both sides of the map. You can get lane ganked. You can get ganked behind wraiths. Like, there's just a lot of ways you can get ganked. Just try to keep a positive attitude and keep learning from each mistake. And then use the resources here. I've listed some resources you can use. This is a YouTube link. If you want to go ahead and copy that. This guy just uploads Bjergsen's streamed games, and he says like what champion Bjergsen is playing and what champion he's going against. So that's a really good way to learn. ProBuilds and Champion.gg are really good if you want to know like what runes, what masteries, or what builds to take for specific champions. I'm not even exaggerating when I say I go on these sites like every day, just so I know like if anything's changing at all. And then yeah, Twitch, just, you know, watch pro mid laners stream, see what they do, see how they farm, roam. A lot of them like to talk about the game, so it's really good to learn from them. I'm not currently doing one-on-one lessons, but you can find other coaches on this site if you want to go that route. And yeah, you can feel free to ask me questions in the in-game client or on the LoL coaching website. Oh, my in-game name is not TT Platypus anymore. It's A space Platypus. And yeah, I think that was it. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this seminar. Feel free to leave me any feedback. I'm gonna stay in the chat room for about 10 or 15 minutes to answer any last questions that you may have. And you can go ahead and ask like any kind of questions you want at this point. I might see if I missed any. If I missed your question early on, go ahead and ask it again and I'll answer it for sure. Other than that, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you got something out of this, and Happy New Year.